your talk earlier. How you doing?
I'm doing incredibly well, my friend. How are you? How's life?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. That's great. I just came back from San Francisco, and yeah, back in London, back in this lovely weather.
Ah, tell me about it. But look, I want to know, what are the vibes like right now out there? I've heard a lot of great things. What's your take?
Oh, this. I mean, the bus is still going, I think. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's everything is AI in that town, and it's absolutely amazing. Everything's buzzing. So yeah.
Do you feel like it's come home, AI, when it in the valley? Do you think it's like that's home for AI, or do you think it's actually not of a place?
No, it absolutely felt like it absolutely felt like it took over. I think everything I heard in that town started and finished with that word. So yeah, I would say so. I would say it's come home. It's taken over other places as well, but I think San Francisco absolutely remains the capital of AI.
Well, we're looking forward to getting into Singulate today. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the company.
Yeah, cool. Hi everyone. My name is Nico. I am one of the co-founders of Singulate. A little bit about my background. I started my journey in tech in London at a company called Journey, and then moved as the first director of engineering of Hopin. So I joined Hopin just before it became the thing that everyone knew and loved. So I joined the company back when we were four people. I was person number five, joined the office with the founders. Incredibly exciting journey to join a hyper growth company right before the pandemic. Stay there for a number of years and then move on to 11x. 11x was the first company, at least that I know of, that was bringing this idea of digital workers and was framing this new AI transformer and generator technology, generative AI as it became known, um, as the solution to creating digital people that would sort of start taking over some of our tasks, especially around the SDR space. And I learned a lot about what that technology could be applied to and what couldn't it be applied to. And I used my learnings to try to figure out what if instead of thinking about what AI can do that's being done today, we could start thinking about what AI can do that's not done today. And while personalization, I thought was an incredibly exciting concept that 11x was thinking about on the big topic of SDR, I felt that a space where personalization could really be applied was marketing, but also just the larger idea of personalization really enticed me. And then there's personalization can become a very controversial word because it's kind of like a weapon. It can be used in a lot of ways. It can be used to deceive people. It can be used to create false sense of intimacy, but it can also be used to create relevancy, and it can also be used to respect the audience time. And
Mm.
that's the kind of personalization it really, really attracts me. And I think my mental model of a great personalized mental model is something like TikTok, where the feed, the thing that you're seeing,
Dude, it's
it's actually
hyper
fully.
relevant. It's so personalized to you. And I don't know what they did. Like, I've read the paper, but it still doesn't make
Exactly.
sense how no one else has been able to copy the infrastructure framework around how TikTok hits every single. I think it and it shows up.
That's exactly right. And it all comes down to, I mean, why do you care and why do people care? This is not like changing the content. This is not lying to you. This is showing you what you care about. And this
Mm.
is the kind of personalization that I think can be really, really impactful. And there's so many surfaces that with the advent of generative AI can be applied. And one of the greatest things is you don't have to be a company the size of TikTok now to start creating this kind of hyper-personal relevance to your audience, no matter what kind of message you're communicating today can be done. And that's a kind of founding principles where we founded Singulate from. So Singulate is the first communication technology that allows to apply personalization. We started today on marketing, and this is a space that's growing. It's incredibly hot. And of course, in marketing, you have so much information. I'm sure you, as everyone else, got so tired of receiving us buying something on Amazon and immediately getting flooded with ads of that thing, emails of that thing, right after you finish the purchase. Why do you have all this data on me if you can't use it for anything useful? And that's what we call the broken promise of personalization. We want to make sure that data can be applied to actually make your life better, to actually give you things that you care about, as opposed to just throwing things at you.
Okay, so help me understand how it does this exactly. Is it as simple as, it takes a block of copy, throws on some uses some Gen AI to help reframe it based on personalized data points that we've got through cookies? Or am I thinking about it differently? Have you rebuilt personas or the concept of personas for each individual, and then you sort of enhance that data set with relevant, very hyper specific data points on myself as an example?
You think it'd be that simple. You think you could just like throw someone's data at an AI and ask it like write a great
That's
copy
that's the
or
dream
write a
we're
great
sold, right? Like that's
yeah,
the dream we're sold.
you think so, but the reality of it is when you're throwing things to an LLM, an LLM has to go through a lot of different steps. And the one thing that it cannot do is understand your domain or learn from repeat experience as you're running personalization. You can apply some techniques to do it, but realistically, an LLM is not the most effective tool in the tool of learning from repeat interactions or creating personalized clusters of segments. So what we ended up building is rather than having an LLM write the content for you, we use an LLM to empower copywriters or marketers. These are the people who know their domains, who know how to write content, who know how to connect with the human beings on the other side. And what we're doing, rather than giving them the tools to create copy, which LLMs do a pretty poor job of, we give them the tools to create the code, the logistics, the infrastructure that enables them to personalize. And that's the kind of things that LRMs have become really, really good at coding, creating like segments and setting up recommendation engines on the background. And we build it all in a seamless UI that enables someone who's a non-technical, great copywriter to be able to leverage all these tools to create a message that really connects.
Can I ask, just for clarity, the LRM is the large reasoning model.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, these things have changed names so many times. When I first came across these concepts, they were basic chain of thoughts on
Yep.
LLMs, and then things have evolved a lot. But I think the current nomenclature for these models is called LRMs, large reasoning models.
Got it. Okay. Right. Let's get into it. So this, like the Singulate product allows hyper-personalization. It's at scale for very specific domains, but doesn't replace the role of a copywriter or doesn't replace the role of that individual. It almost enhances them to a different degree. Why, how has Singulate been able to build a tool that allows people to use it compared to just plugging in Claude as an example?
Well, the simple reality of just plugging in Claude is at the end of the day, all that Claude can do is build within the constraints of the tools that you have, right?
Right.
So if you're plugging in Claude into, I don't know, your HubSpot, your Marketo, those
Uh-huh.
tools were built before the advent of AI, and they're not really prepared to take full advantage of they don't have the capability of setting up a recommendation engine. They don't have the capability of setting up a clustering system that will identify trends and evolve them. So our system effectively is built on the age of AI. It's built on this idea that you could use LRMs to set all of these workflow steps and just gives these AIs, gives these foundation models the right tools so that they can help your marketer write this personalized content.
I see. Okay, that makes a little more sense for me. I thought it was as simple as like just replacing it, but actually there's a bit more nuance where it's learning itself, and so there's a feedback loop of what works, what doesn't. Was that quite complicated to build?
Well, we're still building it, and as it stands with these things, like you never stop building. You can always think of new creative ideas or new things that you can evolve. The great thing about building on top of LRMs, as opposed to just like hoping that the LLM takes everything for you, is that you're able to like think out of the box and create all sorts of different workflows that can be unique and can really add value. Like recently, we created a workflow where we set up a research agent that
Hmm.
not only does everything I just told you, but starts by finding the right data, finding the right information, and helping use that information to create personalized content. So this is, yeah.
Here's one for you.
To answer,
How do you find the right data? Because today, like I use the models a lot, right? You've got to be at the cutting edge or the bleeding edge of AI where you can. And what I find is sometimes it requires a lot of me curating the prompt to allow for a good amount of research to be done, and actually it surfaced the correct quote unquote documents, websites that I require to build, background on guests as an example in what we do here. How do you do it? Like,
yeah,
how do you actually build an agent that does the work correctly?
yeah, absolutely. So we start with three parts. First, we love using the data that already exists. Like there's nothing like using the data that captures your relationship with that customer, that audience member. And that's the data that's the most readily available, and also the data that's the most useful and impactful on your communication. Like when you're
Mm,
speaking with someone, like this Amazon example I gave you. Um, Amazon knows what you purchased. They know what you interacted in, and they know what you searched for. So if they were to leverage the data in the right way, they could apply it. The second part, of course, is we create a whole dynamic of pre-built templates. And we have our own copywriters and we know how to do marketing. So basically, we started teaching the model our ways in a sense. Like we started teaching, okay, these are the research strategies that really result in impactful results.
right.
And the great thing about building this kind of model is that you get to learn you get to really do science in marketing. Like you get to learn what things actually work and do it in a level that couldn't really be applied before, couldn't really be done before, because
Mm,
tools like HubSpot, they don't really understand to the level of intent what their users are used at doing on the platforms. But because we're using AI, all the LLMs all the way through, we can understand the intent, we can understand the strategies, and we can basically pit strategies against each other and really come up with the ones that will perform the best at very specific jobs.
oh, that's really interesting. So you can sort of pit the AI against, you know, against itself and figure out what is the actual flow that worked well. What is the type of research flow that we require that produces the best result?
Yeah,
Is
absolutely.
that something
I
is that
mean,
something you can just do in a Claude or a Gemini or an OpenAI, or is that something you've had to purpose build?
well, everything we had to purpose built, and of course the foundation models like Cloud Gemini. I mean, we don't just use LLMs. So Cloud Gemini, Anthropic, and the open source models, DeepSeek, when they are incredibly helpful tools that we build
Mm,
on top of. But we also use, I mean, we have our own vector databases, so we use vector querying a lot as part of understanding user intent and figuring out what are the right things to grab from a database, for example. And we
explain that
also
to
use
me. How does that work?
So this is one thing that marketers do a lot is segmentation. So when you're doing segmentation, one thing that you can do is describe your audience in natural language and say, I want to capture people like growth marketers. But people have different job titles on the LinkedIn profiles, on whatever information you have. And it's not always obvious to understand, okay, what does growth market translate to in my database? So you can use a technique borrowed from these transformers architectures called embedding
Hmm.
and have your system transform growth marketing into a matrix of numbers and then search your database for job titles that are around this nebulous concept of a growth marketer. And because LLMs have become so good at understanding language, these embedding technologies have actually become really powerful searching techniques to help you find similar things to the thing that you're looking. You
Hmm.
combine that with traditional queries, and you suddenly create an engine that is really, really powerful at finding the things that you're looking for.
And how does the clustering play into that?
So clustering there's two ways in which you can create segmentation. The one way is a marketer really knows their audience. A marketer has been working on a domain for a while and can describe the audience to you. Like we don't need to, for many of our customers, we don't need to tell them what audiences buy their products and what are the different intents because they've been at it for so long and they have run experimentations and they learned that.
Hmm.
So that's segmentation, not normal segmentation, but also we can start identifying patterns for them that they might have not been able to perceive before. And this is where clustering comes into play. This is an entirely different field of AI or machine learning than LLMs, but it's also incredibly helpful to use in combination. So we suggest new segments to our marketers, and they also describe segments to us. And the combination of both of those things
Hmm.
create incredibly powerful segmentation strategies.
Clear. All right. And where does it go from here? Obviously, the marketing is the current focus. And do you feel like you get pigeonholed into that? Because the reality of the situation is that Singulate isn't just used in the context of marketing. It's so much larger than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this idea started from communication. And while we believe marketing has a lot of the right ingredients, you know your audience already. Uh, there's a lot of money, of course, involved, which helps us develop our MVP and help us grow our business. But at the end of the day, this concept that we're trying to build, it's about communication at its core. It's about any form of written communication. So think about anything from education, where has it ever happened to you that someone explained to you after 10 times of you being explained the same concept, something in just the right way that it finally clicked?
Yep, it was the
That is
transformer. It was the
personalization.
transformer paper. I read it like 15 times. I couldn't get it, and then asked ChatGPT to explain it like a child, and here we are.
Here we are. So this ability of breaking down concepts and describing them in many, many ways. I know, at least to me, I've got explained so many things in so many ways. And sometimes they land, but often they don't. So for education material, I think this technology of being able to personalize content and break it down in such a way that it works for your audience, it's a great way. That's a great application. And you can think about it in every form of written communication. Think about the websites you visit. Think about
Mm.
the government information that you receive. What if the advisory was written in a language that resonates with you? What if the advisory was written um, in such a way that you understand it in your language? If you don't speak English, if you don't speak the right dialogue, if you don't speak the right tone, if the language being used to describe the thing is too technical, there's so many ways in which personalization can be applied to help create a message that really resonates with the audience. And at the end of the day, that's the purpose of communication. Like, no one wants to be talking in a vacuum. Everyone wants to be heard. And this technology can enable that.
I like that idea of education playing into this, right? Because I know full well, I've talked to teachers about this and people in education that they are in real time as a child or a student doesn't understand what they're talking about. They're able to go into the large language models, the large reasoning models, and quite quickly make it so that that child, that student, is able to understand it on the same par as their peers. Now that at scale across a classroom, just it feels like that's what's supposed to be the norm.
Yeah, I think this ability of explaining things, or again, this is all personalization. This is all about grabbing some intense message and translating that down to different audience. I think one danger of overusing LLMs transparently, and this is why we don't do that at Singulate, is there's certain problems that are intrinsic to LLMs, like hallucinations. I'm sure it's a hot topic and everyone's aware of. This one of the main reasons why Singularity is architecture the way it is that we minimize the use of LLMs when it comes down to generating content on real time, and we
Hmm.
maximize the use of things that can be verified before you send that message out to the world. So think about being able to verify that simplification or translation that you do to children, that's going to be correct ahead of time, being able to validate that message is going down to the audience, it's going to be the right message. And this is incredibly important because at the end of the day, the one thing that you don't want to do is personalize to the point or use LLMs to the point where you're simplifying the concepts, but you're losing information on translation, or worse, things are being made up, and suddenly the message is an entirely different message. And this can be incredibly dangerous when it comes down to education, government. So all of these applications I mentioned, hallucinations is an incredibly challenging problem that just putting things on top of an LLM can quite resolve.
How do you solve the hallucination problem? Because in some cases, when we're being creative, right, actually the hallucination is an idea, not a bug, right? It's a feature, not
Of
a
course.
bug. But in the context of comms and having to understand something in a certain way, it is by all standards a bug. How do you get around that? Like, what? How do you think about it? Is it something you leverage in certain moments, or actually it's something that we try and keep out of the product?
Well, that's what our idea of being built on top of this modular architecture comes into play. And this idea of we working with copywriters and people who actually humanly curate the content comes into play. So what our AI is spending 99% of the time doing is not actually writing message, or it's not writing message that will go out and verified to an audience, but it is creating these clusters of these groupings, these segments, these transformations that can be statically verified, and we have a lot of techniques to help someone who's non-technical understand, okay, this is what this transformation is doing. And because it's not using AI at the time of being generated to the audience, once you verified it once and once you understood what's going on here, you can trust that that's going to be actually correct for everyone on the list, no matter how large the list. And we minimize the use of LLMs for places where, yeah, creativity is what you care for. So there's certain messages within the weather message where, well, if you get something slightly wrong, that's it's not the core of the message though. So when you're making a quick joke or the intro, there's a lot of places where, yeah, LLMs and creativity can have a lot of very little negative effect and very high positive effect. So you can combine all of these techniques and really create something that's unique to the individual, but it's not completely unvetted.
What was the raise like for this fundraising process? Was it quite easy because you're building something that seems just so applicable across so many industries? The market is basically ginormous, or was it quite a difficult raise?
Well, it was transparently, it was pretty straightforward. The great thing we had going on, and this is something that my co-founders and I feel incredibly grateful and lucky, is that we built through our journey a very good network of people who support us and who believe in us. So we're able to reach out to our network, and this idea is something that resonates with a lot of investors. A lot of people were thinking about it at the time. So thankfully, it was a very short process. We were able to, from the time we decided to go institutional to the time we were able to close that deal, I think was a couple of weeks at most. And we had a certain number of investors we had to say no to and close the conversations early. So yeah, we were incredibly lucky in that regard.
It's a nice position to be in. Was it?
Yeah,
Were
I
you
can't
able to
complain.
were you able to bring on the partners that you wanted and the investors that you wanted throughout that process, rather than having to just like sort of cherry pick money?
Oh no, absolutely. Like I'm incredibly grateful and I'm incredibly happy with the investors that we're working with, Wowery, Sidcamp, and all of our backers, and all of our angel institutional backers. They have been our plan A target investors. So yeah, we're very happy to be working with them.
I love it. Can I ask how much did we raise?
Yeah, it was 2.2 million raise that we did back in October last year, announced to the list. They did undisclosed. So yeah, not too
Absolutely,
bad.
absolutely love it. I know it's a bit late from us at the on the show, but we're looking forward to when you raise your Series A and we can come and announce it on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to be looking at a series at a seed round. So that was actually a pre-seed. We're looking at a seed round sometime in the future. News TBD.
Jesus, that was a seed. Well, pre-seed. Jeez
Yeah,
Louise, that was huge.
that was a large pre-seed. I got to admit to that.
Love it. Nicholas, I've got to ask, before we let you go, I'm trying to understand with regards to, your journey. It feels like you're perfectly positioned to build this product. And it seems like the team is too. When you're looking at people that you've looked up to in the industry across the history of everything entrepreneurship, all things startups, business, etc., who do you look at and go like, yeah, I want to take some traits from them?
I mean, I used to have names for this answer, but since then I can't say I look up to them anymore. So I'm gonna refrain to answering this question if I may. There's a lot of great people in this industry. I think it's more researchers that I look up to these days.
Tell me,
People who
tell me the
are
names of the researchers.
well, Ilya is someone who I think it's has an amazing journey through these. Well, then it's but yeah, I mean,
But the clarity of mind on those two, right? When they talk about not only the product and the engineering, really get into the nitty gritties of the research, but then sort of transition into the wider vision of what this means for the world, the deep thinking around how it affects humanity. Those two do not come often together.
no, yeah, I mean it's rare when the business savvy and the research savvy come together, and well, I wish them the very best. I mean, they are building. a lot of great ideas that we're building on top of. And I mean, I certainly know that we're passionate about what we're doing, but we couldn't do it if we weren't stepping on the shoulders of giants, as they say.
Love it. Last question. Do you end up long term thinking you build out your own local model or smaller model that's hyper fine tuned for personalization in the context of the different industries you cover?
So I think model is a loaded word. We did build an architecture that's when people think models, they're basically thinking, are we going to build our own LLM? And I think the answer to that is almost categorically no.
Hmm.
Um, but when it comes down to a model, the word model used to mean something bigger than just specific an LM. And our AI model, or basically the way our email generation works, it's indeed a model. It is the combination of it is an architecture series of non-deterministic steps that results in a email generator. So in a sense, we kind of already did with MCSA, with our architecture model that creates these modular emails. That said, yeah, I mean, when it comes down to, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to predict whether we'll never come up with an LLM. Maybe at some point we'll find like these niche use cases where we might want to fine tune an LLM for very specific purposes. But I do think I'm really looking forward to what comes next after LLMs, after LRMs even, and we might be playing on those games. We might be looking at what comes after, and we might be building something among those lines.
Give us a little sneak peek into that thinking. What do you see past the curve that no one else does?
I, I mean, it's hard to say that I think of these that no one else has, but I think LLMs, the transformer technology, the autoregressive transformer technology behind LLMs, it's an incredibly powerful tool, but I do think it's got certain limitations that are going to be really hard to overcome. Um, so I'm not one of those doomers that says like we've hit an AI wall and progress will stop. Because I do think that one thing that LMs have already given us is the ability of creating these oceans of synthetic data, these oceans of increased productivity that will lead to the next revolution a lot faster than LLMs even came. So I can't say I'm not in the woods on building the LLMs. So I can't say that they won't find a way of proving me wrong, but I do think that more likely than that, the next AI revolution will come from all the data that's been produced from LLMs, from all the and from all the improvements that you can create, basically all the productivity boosts that you can now gain from being able to code with LLMs.
Nicholas, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for the upskilling in all things